Uh, Very good afternoon and namaste. Now we are in a panel about the evaluation for better governance. Fostering accountability, credibility, and transparency. People say that good evaluation enhances the governance. Do you believe? Some of the research also say the same thing. Where there is a good evaluation culture, there is a better governance. So there is a kind of relationship between the evaluation and the governance. In that, evaluation enhances the transparency and also increases the accountability. But I would say one more thing about the accountability. It is one known the governance would be enhanced if the evaluation is credible. So for the governance credibility, evaluation also should be credible. Meaning that we need to do the good evaluation. Evaluation, just for the sake of evaluation, would be slight in the whole development process if they use the recommendation of the evaluation. That's why the very important thing is that when we talk of the evaluation, we only talk of the good evaluation. We only talk of the quality evaluation, not other kind of evaluation. So credible evaluation enhances the governance. To establish this relationship between the credible evaluation and the governance, we have to be distinguished panelists. I welcome them all three panelists. I very much welcome you all, those who are in person participating and also those who are participating online in Nepal as well as in South Asia and globally. With this, I would like to request Madhusudanji to say a few words or to give your insights into for the panel that how evaluation, but before that, how evaluation can enhance the governance. First round we will go for the kind of the practical approach. Then secondly, we will move to the specific approaches like how evaluation enhances the transparency and the accountability, and also we would also like to know about this, how evaluation has enhanced the governance in the public sector. And also we'd like to know about how evaluation has enhanced the governance in the non-government sector, including NGOs, INGOs, private sector, as well as development partners. And also, we'd like to know about how evaluation has helped governments to address the issue of diversities, like how it has enhanced enhance the governance in reducing the poverty and addressing, reaching out the unreached people and enriching out the unreached places. This kind of things also will be knowing from this panel. Thank you. Just a minute, because I forgot to introduce the keynote, the panelist, and please forgive me because I didn't open my computer so far. So I don't know. I have to open it so that I can say a few words about them. Although I know all of them. But I don't know everything of them.
To save the time, we can introduce ourselves.
Yeah, Madhusudan, kindly please.
Yes, we can introduce ourselves first, and then after we go to the issue.
Yeah.
That's okay. Namaste. Good afternoon. I am Madhusudan Bhattarai. I'm an applied economist. So on that part, largely you can say that from the economic angle, I usually see more, but it's a multidisciplinary these things. So this is my brief one. And basically, I've been working in the area for the last 20 years.
Myself, I'm Kiran Viparetti. I work for the government of Nepal. I have been with the government for the last 34 years. In the Planning Commission, I have already served almost 22 years. At the moment, I have been heading Good Governance and Social Development Division. Under my prerogative, there are ministries like Women, Children, Senior Citizen, Ministry of Health and Population, and Ministry of Communication, Information and Technology. Basically, I'm also looking after a multi-sector nutrition plan, which is a flagship malnutrition intervention program in the country. And other than that, I'm a country coordinator of nutrition movement, which is being launched as a flagship anti-malnutrition program under the auspices of the United Nations. I have been also working as an executive committee member of the Scaling Up Nutrition Movement. So before working in the Planning Commission, I also worked as a secretary in the Ministry of Social Development, Ministry of Economic Affairs and Planning in the then province number 2 and Madhya Pradesh at the moment. And I've had spent considerable good time in the Ministry of Women, Children and Senior Citizen, looking after the issues of gender, human trafficking, child right, person with disabilities, and so on and so forth. I'm honored to be here this morning, and thank you very much for this important opportunity. Thank you.
Namaste, everybody. My name is Dibya Devi Gurung. My background is natural resource management, but I've been working in integrating gender and social inclusion issues and diversity issues within the technical sectors. And I work independently and affiliated with several organizations. Thank you.
So the first question is about the relationship between the evaluation and the governance. Yep. Please.
Yeah, this is an interesting question, but I think after seeing the session topics, I try to get the information this and based on previous experience also. It is a very vague. I would say there's no straight linearity type of things. It's complex part. governance itself, people have been working differently. So by scale, it's a national government, system programmatic or project governance. So we have, set as a goal as a generic governance. So I would like to something on that, from other side of it. Not, of course, all the evaluation done for the transparency, accountability, that's the fundamental thing. But coming to the governance, my personal view, the evaluation largely done across the globe, if you see, is project or program level. At the country level governance, I'm not saying it has not been done, it is done, but it's a difficult task, few studies, journal paper type of things. OECD has done one recently, 2 years ago, cross country. The data of the governance, because when you see the impact evaluation, the isolation of the data, the making the proper indicator of the governance and proper indicator of the evaluation system. So it becomes complex task. So there is no, even there is one good study, the sites by Jacob, Stephen Jacobin and EDL. They have reviewed around 42 countries of the EU. This matter, and according to that indicator, which lies mostly to the developed country, around 1/3 are in the higher end, but there are many things missing there also. So you can expect, if the same things done in South Asian level or Asian other country level, Africa level, there will be quite different result will be there. So the relationship, I will say, one of the fundamental reasons for evaluation is to improve governance, but more, I would say, based on the practical aspect, more done as the improving project governance, then less on the programmatic governance improvement, and then in the further less, much I think, but not the project, the evaluation contributed for changing on the country's governance. I don't know anything that I can empirically see or anything that, given in the literature, I could not find that. But one thing interesting, while preparing of this, I noticed that if the governance is very high, importance of evaluation reduce. That's this interesting thing I found. Which that in economics we say it's a margin return. If a scarcity is high, your return will be high on the investment. But when you reach certain threshold level, then the return, so importance evaluation also reduce. That's very good, I think, case of Denmark and South Africa. When I read paper, I also learned a lot on that aspect, and which apply to even we do here in our context. South Asia is a good example. If COE wants to do in future something, I think these are the issues to compare across the governing system. Even federal system now, India has a lot of that things in India done, because you have different states there. Each state has a different governance system, and it is good to do that. And there are some in Indian countries done study, which is across the state difference, which capture governance part, but they are not exactly all the evaluation framework things. So relationship there, it is understood. Everybody we do for the improving governance, we say, but the empirical evidence, if we say there are not documented this type of things, so you can find, I will say, and then. So in that way, we have to factor out the skill important, whether project level, program system level, or national level governance we're talking about, and the evaluation or same thing. And for the international or the national level governance, evaluation is a tough task, because I did one study in my PhD a long time, that you need to use FAO data or World Bank data, the limited indicator, or something WRI compiled across the country governance, the Maryland University compiled governance, Transparency International. These are different things, context of the developing country. So the context matter. So it's difficult to, that actually come to the policy arena and then conclude something on that, I would say. So I will limit that, and then further thing, I'll give forum back to the coordinator.
Thank you, moderator, for this important opportunity. Let me clarify one thing. I'm not going to the very much literature today in the discussion. Whatever I have understood and learned and experienced during my public service, so I will try to share that one. And more than that, whatever honorable speaker just mentioned, I won't be repeating those things. For the sake of the viewer as well, who has been connected virtually, Let me try to, understand. When we go to the literature, we find, there are certain indicator to judge the governance. So I'm not talking about different layers of governance at the moment, but how do you call a good governance, and what are the things to be happening there? So that should be participatory, consensus-oriented, accountable, transparent, responsive, effective and efficient, equitable and inclusive, and rule of law. These are the points we need to consider and note. And now we have to consider how we get information, data, anecdotal to support for the cause of the good governance. So this is the area actually we have to discuss. And if I, recall what Dr. Gunapati Oza sir during his deliberation this morning was telling OECD and these, evaluation criteria: relevance, effectiveness, efficiency, sustainability, and equitable distribution. So if we see and try to link whatever we get out of these measuring rod of evaluation and the result, if we can fit in to get, those aspects which we consider as good governance. If you see, I don't know that much about the literature. I haven't gone through that. I'm not expert of this area. So I feel that there is a very much positive correlation between evaluation, if it is effective, I should say this, effective, with the good governance or governance. So I will stop here. Thank you.
On your question on how evaluation can help governance, I can say it from two ways. One way is it can help and it cannot help governance. If the evaluation is not good, and in most of the cases, my own experience, due to several factors, and also having been inside the organizations and how evaluations are conducted, I have seen in several areas how evaluation has contributed in not promoting good governance the way it has been done. So I think you have to, when you look at it, you have to look from both sides. And when we say not, then why not is the question. So, and also following to why evaluations are conducted to track changes, to see the progress. But again, when the evaluation point is, if it is going to be a good evaluation to help the institution, the government, or whoever is concerned or affected with that evaluation process, if it is to help them, then it is much more than just the framework given. It's a whole lot of things. So I feel there's it's not one person who does evaluation. It's a whole team group at different levels engaged on how evaluation can make governance stronger. So for that, I think there'll be all other following questions, but I'll end in that, and I can further tell the other aspects on how it can be done, I think.
May I add one point here?
Yeah, please.
I feel that I missed one or 2 points which need to be highlighted after what Dibyaji has just mentioned about. Actually, when you talk about, evaluation, we shouldn't forget that it is only impact evaluation. It is ex-ante evaluation, ongoing evaluation, terminal evaluation, ex-post, and impact evaluation. So there are a range of, evaluation normally you carry. And normally, when you say evaluation, then to my understanding, whatever the nomenclature is, it must be effective, it must be efficient, and it must be fitting in the policy formulation process. And whatever Dibyaji just mentioned about that, it should have enough, data and information and vitamins or kurak to change yourself if there are some, shortcomings. So from that aspect, it should be, it should be result-oriented type of evaluations. So I just want to highlight that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
The points I have come that some say the evaluation enhances the governance. Some say we don't know whether it enhances or not. There is not yet good evidence to concretely say whether evaluation enhances the governance or not. And another person says, I don't believe the evaluation enhances the governance. So we have three different speakers and they are telling three different things. So what is this then now, in fact? Yeah. So, Debyaji, can you...
What I meant to say is like evaluation, when we do a serious evaluation to improve the governance, a whole lot of range of, aspects of things are engaged and have to be invested on, and also to be looked from different dimensions. For example, how do you see what is the evaluation framework? What are you trying to see? Usually evaluation, whether it is a high level change or a very immediate level change, it tries to see what changed after we invested or after we supported certain kind of things, So our whole aspect is gone there to see the change there, whatever level of change. It can be impact level, it can be outcome level or very output level as well. We go to see the change. But here, when we directly try to link it with the governance, what we need to see is, how is this evaluation framework conceptualized? Whose change it wants to see?
Yeah.
And when we talk about SDGs, the ones who's left behind, and Ganpati sir very well said in the morning, even like our project is there, and I have been like, this is my constant struggle. I have numerous stories on very structured evaluation, why I should meet certain people and why I should not meet certain people, why I should go there and not go there. There's a whole struggle of, trying to show that we did the good thing, So how the evaluation, if the evaluation is conceptualized with a learning angle in mind, to say, okay, in 3 years, what can we do? We did this much. So please help us guide from the outside eyes to see, we have done this much, so what should we do next now? Instead of saying we've done everything, and now this is what we've done. We've sweated out and invested on and did so much, and trying to, in the direct language, it will be manipulation, but it's type of controlled, So that's one aspect we have to see when you're doing evaluation. So, and then within that, again, I go back to Ganpati sir, he said we have to see deeper. Evaluation can be like, rapid. But what I have in my own experience and the development I've seen is we have to go deeper in evaluation. First, I say how it's been conceptualized. Whose change are you going to see? By whose? How do you define who? And now our own experiences and studies have shown that even among Dalits, even among Janajatis, even among people living in the most remotest area, there is disparity. There are few elite people who are acting as gatekeepers. So if we take the mark and say, whose change has happened? Is it the leaders or is it the elite people among the disadvantaged groups? Changes are we going to see? Or does our evaluation design have that dimension or have that steps to go one step further and see that? And are we independent enough? Are we given in the governance? Also, we have to see in the process, has the institution who has asked us to do the evaluation given us the independence to go that further, has given us enough resources to talk to 5 more really disadvantaged group who we have to spend 1 more day in their village to know what change happened. So whose change it is? How has it been conceptualized? That's the whole framework part. And what are the methods we have adopted? Are we capacitated enough to see from those lenses? Or are you just like, a very technical person will see the same thing very differently compared to another person who has the expertise on that area? I say that because I come from a very technical background. I used to be like that, 2 + 2 = 4. He talks about linearity. But are there enough people to see, to see the change we are talking about? Are there enough people with expertise, with commitment, with resources with capacities to see from a different angle. Now I've been working for 12 years looking at social issues in the technical matter, and the way I used to see 12 years ago and 12 years onwards is completely different. And everyone says, you are seeing things which we hadn't seen before. That's the expertise we require. So what I'm trying to tell is it's a whole lot, it's very, when we say it's complex, I am not trying to sound and making it a very evaluation as a very difficult, unachievable thing. But these aspects has to be really thought through.
IT,
यता भएन भने त्यहाँ हुँदैन जसलाई
सर म यसमा
हजुरलाई पछि म दिदीलाई दिन्छु पहिला प्लिज
Actually, I want to add something on what you have said before. Actually, I have little bit difference of opinion here. Actually, I don't know how Dr. Waza sir understood it, but I think that we all of us have a consensus that evaluation is important, and in one way or the other, it will help improve governance issues. That is a consensus we do have. I don't see any difference on that. So if there is a disagreement on this bottom line, then perhaps Planning Commission itself needs to change its TOR, because we have been emphasizing a lot on internal evaluation, impact evaluation, third-party evaluation. Professor Anuj is here with whom whose expertise we also took, and there are many eminent scholar I have seen over here on the floor. So that's why this is the area, but I do agree with Dibya ma'am that how we, frame up evaluation as such. Have we been able to make it qualitative? Have we been able to, feed in the outcome of the evaluation in the policy formulation process? Have we been able to, correct ourselves if some shortcomings have been observed there? So those are the areas I think we need to discuss more on. And one of the, my proposal is that please help, I would request a committee of evaluator as well to have a separate research, because it's $1 million questions, need to respond with. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, this is good that there is a, it's good to get, confused on the topic and then come to the conclusion later on. That's, I think, one way to, as a researcher, to go basically disentangle the issue. If you all agree on one point, you cannot find out the new thing or new insight. That's good. We find whether something in initially different version of that. What I mentioned, there is a relationship is vague. There's a clear-cut something evidence coming from the project level. I actually see from economic, my professional background, that's sorry for that, the project issues of governance differ across the scale. We're talking about the project integrated this thing, or even learning across the project at the program level or system level, where large of the part in Nepal, what we do, project level we do, or few done program level as a multilateral agency, they do issue mode or CGIS center. I have worked earlier in the CGIS center, India and outside. So they do as a system level. In Nepal, hardly other than the program level, very few, I can see other parties. Issue mode does once in a 5-year strategic evaluation, this thing, or some of the INGO didn't do. At the national contribution, I say very thin, intensity of impact will be very low. That's what, if you say the project, the evaluation impact on changing governance of a nation is very, very less. That's why we were focusing more on down only, not the, but there is an attempt being done to see whether national governments, what is the impact on that, because there are issues. Evaluation, the development stage of the evaluation vary by nation. it's very context specific. Like governance is a context specificity, evaluation is also context specific. Even the OECD has done, but OECD guideline does not follow by other donor, major leading donor. Among the OECD because of the funding issue, and largely my perception or my, basically maybe it's a bias or something, that the evaluation is a deeper, it's more on, funding driven globally, and that also basically external development partner, and it vary by the country context, impact and evaluation, because it will go in the future of the same thing. There will be no harmonization because it is embedded in the developing partner context, because they have to report in parliament, and each country has a different parliament relating, like US parliament, UK parliament, different, the issues of the Australia. So that's why you can see there's a different, because of the evolution of the accounting audit system of each country is different. And then so if you see I'm going back to the 100 years or something, so this is coming because somebody has to accountability. How this evaluation method developed, it vary from, from the developed institutional or university, something you say, but each one has a different context, and then so the method also different. If you say Australian evaluation method, defeat evaluation method, and there's a dissimilarity, and all because of the funding nature, even Nepal is a good example here. All the major developing partners, you can say, evaluation method differ hugely across the things, and that makes further confusing to the planning commission also. I guess there is a Nepal planning commission has done good job of making monitoring evaluation guideline, but that is also resource book only, because there is a binding level, or what procedure, how to do is not mentioned there. It's only a resource book that the other agency can use. But so the binding company has to do, and so that's why I mentioned that the relationship comes from different context specific issue, and that has a historical, political context of that country. Even implementation of that in our guideline also. Honestly, how many government institutions or our other INGO or other developing partners, CSO working in Nepal has exactly follow the guideline of NPC. You can see we hardly we follow that. There is a good guideline actually, summarize the resource book of that. So because of that part, I would say there is a in the project level, there is most of the work done. Evaluation, we also engage most in project level. That's what most of the evaluation done. And there's a whole objective of to improve the transparency, and then transparency lead to the ultimately accountability. Governance comes as a secondary effect and tertiary effect. That's a primary. I'm telling you, primary impact, secondary part, and tertiary comes there. So it is a in part of the governance. And documentation, all those things. Hardly evaluation. Evaluator mentioned that even OECD guideline, you will not see the institutional impact or capacity development impact, spillover impact type of thing, which is more important in developing country context, because each development project has some part of the capacity development, national institutional development, spillover, learning from war. These are basically less focus area from other side. So for that perspective, I raised the question. Yes. Back to the conversation.
I think maybe you may go from, because most of the issue is coming that maybe the evaluation maybe perhaps is not properly done. If it is properly done, then only it can be useful for the intended beneficiaries. That is what the Beji also was telling, and also Dr. Bhattrai is telling that this is a context specific, and he also established some kind of relationship between the not evaluation, but I would say evaluation culture and the governance. If there is a good evaluation culture, then there might not be required, more evaluation. That's what you mean, right? Not evaluation, but evaluation culture you are speaking, I think, yeah. And if there is already good culture of evaluation and using the findings and recommendations of evaluation, if there is that kind of the culture, then there might be, then they already use that evaluation findings to their governance. Because there is a system of using it very well, right? But in the developing countries, the culture of evaluation and culture of using the evaluation data in the decision making and in the governance is poor. That's why more need is there in the developing countries rather than the developed countries for evaluation. That's what I think Dr. Bhatta is telling, right? Yeah, I think that's good. And use of evaluation is very crucial. The first crucial thing is quality evaluation. Second crucial thing is use of evaluation. So, Kiran sir, can you say something about how evaluation is being used? Or evaluation, the findings and recommendations are being used in the policy making or in the decision making? Because you are in there.
It's a very difficult question, sir. And I can tell on my own, in my division, when we were talking about the culture before, but the question is how you nurture that culture. It's $1 million question once again. Are you really incentivizing those people who like to work under this domain? This is very pertinent issues. And from my, beginning of my bureaucratic career, I always wanted to work under the Yamani division, but I failed to have that opportunity so far. I really understand the importance of Yamani actually. Globally, this is core of the core areas, in the development paradigm actually, but which is less prioritized and somehow neglected in our country, especially within the public service. If you post somebody over there in the Yamani section, you feel that he's rejected by the organizations. So this is the reality. But I'm not all the time pessimistic. I'm hopeful as well. We have a lot of, very new talented officers are there, which are very much interested in this domain. Regarding my concern, actually, in your questions, I would like to respond by saying that yes or no, both. There are many incidents and occasions where black box works, so-called quote-unquote black box, in which you don't know what kind of information, what kind of anecdotal you use to make a decision, to go for the formulation of plan, policy, and strategies. But largely, I look after multi-sector nutrition plan. One example, we have just done midterm evaluation. And the result of the evaluation is going to be used for the formulation of multi-sector nutrition plan third, which is underway. Very simple. If you commission certain evaluation and you spend the money for that, if you really want to value for money, which is very important, then you have to use the recommendation and findings in the future decision making. That's why, sir, if you see our, monitoring and evaluation guideline, we have different, construct. For example, YMDAC, pre-YMDAC, pre-NDAC, YMDAC. Those who are new, let me, go into the full form. YMDAC refers to National Development Action Committee meeting, which is being chaired by the Right Honorable Prime Minister. That mechanism is there simply because you address any sort of problem that has been encountered by the development program and project right away, so that there won't be any hindrance in its progress. So there are certain mechanisms there, definitely there, and those mechanisms, normally we review the progress, challenges as well, and we try to, overcome those challenges from the right authorities. So let me confess one thing, it may be difficult, but we have to confess. We have a lot of mechanism, we have different guidelines, we have policies, but we need to make them more effective, as pointed out by Honorable Saloni Pradhan ma'am and also Ganapati sir. this morning that we have to really focus for the implementation of those, guideline policies and program in letter and spirit, number one. And we have to, nurture the culture of evaluation as well. Ganapati sir, you have 8 points here, and I bet that each point takes well 1 day to discuss on it. And all these points are related with each other. I hope that we are moving to next point when we add on, having more discussion. Yeah, I would like to say that if you try to make right holders, you pinpoint over here in second questions, right holders accountable for evaluation results, then really you can get, something meaningful out of the evaluation efforts. I will stop here, and when we go to number 2, then we'll discuss more, sir, if time allows us.
Make it more accountable to the right way. Start from you.
So, Ganapati sir, my humble suggestion, rather than, using the word right holders, I would like to replace it with stakeholders. When we talk about the governance, it's not the governance within the government system, It's a governance of the NGOs. It's a community-based organizations, There is a large domain when you talk about the governance. It's a private sector as well. So all these stakeholders should be, accountable. And I was, pondering, how do you refer accountability? Accountability is your answerability to the people, to the community with whom you intend to provide the service, right? Number one. And number 2 is value for money. Whatever money that is given to you, are you using it in an efficient way? How do you measure efficiency? It's a per unit, cost of productions to perform certain activities. How much money you spend and how much return you get out of it. Is it least cost? Then you are efficient. And more than that, we haven't talked that much, but when we talk about the accountability, then we have to talk about the corruption also. It doesn't mean that corruption is there only in the government system. I think we have to, again, look at things at a larger domain. Financial irregularities or policy level irregularities, right? And lack of good governance within the NGO system. Is it only family sort of business in some of the NGOs? There has been allegation going on whether some of the NGOs have been, if you see the membership there, extended families. So we have to talk about those things also. And another is, zero tolerance against red tapeism, zero tolerance about corruption. So all these things, I think, we have to consider while we talk about the, accountability of the right holders. And I'm sure that, the result of the evaluation definitely, contribute to make our system answerable. If you see some of the provision, for example, public hearing and audit, it's a wonderful idea. See, you are letting all the commoner know how much budget you have for the whole fiscal year, what are the activities you are going to carry out, and where are you at the moment. This is one of the best examples we have to showcase. But the issue once again is that are we regularly carrying out social audit and public hearing at the moment? So wonderful things are there. And perhaps on behalf of the government, we may have some shortcomings. And civil society organization, development partners are with us, I think, and we need to work together in this regard. Yes, thank you.
You may focus from the perspective of enhancing the governance by the evaluation.
Can you turn on your mic?
You may focus on, because he focused on the government public sector. You may focus on the civil society sector. How governance, how evaluation has enhanced the governance in the civil society.
Okay. How governance has enhanced
Mm.
The governance of civil society.
How
Evaluation has, okay. Thank you. First and foremost, because how governance can be, how evaluation can be enhanced governance, again, it boils down to whether the results have been useful of the evaluation, whatever recommendation and results, the findings, and how it has been used and who has it been used for. I think those are the fundamental questions. I mean, there are many steps, but to summarize it, that's the fundamental questions we should be aware of, I think. And when we talk about the usefulness, of course, the usefulness becomes useful once we take the recommendations seriously. By seriously meaning, we feed it into our new planning or new design or new annual planning system, whatever it is, we have to feed in. But how do you feed in is the question out here. That's been done by everybody, and we know we don't need to have this conclave to discuss that, because of course it has to be fed in, that's very normal. But now, time and again, what I've seen is, how is this findings first interpreted? Who interprets it? The donor, the civil society institutions, the decision makers, the government partners, the local people, how is it being interpreted? I might see the same issue very differently. Because I'm working from the technical and the social aspect, numerous times I see my technical friends completely overlooking, completely not privileging the issues, which is a huge issue for the community. So it is a small thing, but what kind of lens, what kind of expertise? Again, I'm going to the expertise and the processes and the methods you have to use those, interpret those, privilege those, invest on those findings to make it useful to the stakeholders. Now, again, who are the stakeholders? Stakeholders range from people like us within the institutions to people in the community who are, again, the group team, leaders of the community, whether it's a Dalit leader, women leader, whatever. So who is interpreting it? For whom it is being interpreted? How is it privileged? How is that issue, that finding is privileged? Suppose, for example, the results have been really deeply seen. And then they say, okay, this time we have to develop a separate program even among the Dalits, or even among the indigenous groups who are like Maji, all these people who are really discriminated. Okay, we have to make investment on that. But are these kinds of things, when it, gets processed in the new planning process, been used to really privilege that? Are there people who has that lens of their, in the decision making, in the planning process, do they have it? So that is what I'm trying to tell here is, it is so important on how these evaluations are used or misused, for who is advantaged, or how it is, you can use this interpret this in number of ways, but that kind of commitment and that kind of accountability has to be there. From whose angle are you going to use that? For example, you have to privilege the geographical area for the next one, I think. And I myself, I don't want to name any government institutions or any donor institutions in this. I myself, when I was working for different institutions, have been told, if you want to get your agreement passed for your organization to implement your program, you have to work in my district. The evaluation results said very poor. My district is poor, my area is poor, otherwise. So, the governance aspect is, and who is going to talk about this? Or who is going to make this an issue? Because the ones in the civil society organization, when you make this an issue, either you are victimized or either you cannot work in that area. Once you start raising these issues, it is just impossible to work in that area. The reasons why I think many of the people who are working inside the institution became independent workers. I have numerous examples how, it's not only evaluation results, because evaluation is not a standalone thing. It's part of a whole development process, which evaluation is a very important component out there. So it's very important to see how these results are being manipulated, who is influencing it, who is privileging it, how are the power struggles played within the civil society nexus and with the government partnership. What kind of partnership is there? Is it a very healthy, what we are talking about out here? Or is it based on numerous interests of where the investment should go? So that we have to see. And then conclaves like this, has to raise that issue, and we have to work hand in hand with the government and the civil society. We have to work hand in hand so that we don't promote bad governance. Because every time we say, oh, we have to make, if we say that, they don't like it. If we say that, the donors won't like it. If you say that, I won't get, especially for me, I work as a consultant. I have to be, it's always a disoriented dilemma I face. If I say this much, will I get another work or not? It's natural. And then it's not about money, it's about being in the scene. You're totally excluded if you start talking about this. So who is going to talk about it? Conclaves like this should work with the government, should raise this issue, because it's huge. It's like, it's really, destroying the whole development work that's happening. So who is going to talk about it? And all of us know about it. So that's where I want to end and go.
Thank you. Madhuji, you may say something from the development partners' point of view.
I don't want to say more, but thing is, if consultation will
About this thing, about sharing the evaluation findings. I'm sorry, I'm taking up time because I think I feel that I need to share this. Sharing is done, and we call in stakeholders, we call in community people, and we share with them. We have consultations, we share the findings, we're very transparent. But I think this transparent method has to be re-examined and revisited. What I see, I'm in many consultations, whether it's about evaluation or whether it's about making new policy or new projects, we're invited. And then we also invite people who are supposed to be there, the real stakeholders or the real actors who are supposed to be affected by that particular program or findings, But the transparency and how are they invited is very crucial to see. From my own experience, and I've also, Anuji is also here, I'd written our group Tara is also here, we had written a small paper about how participation happens in these forums, These spaces which I see invited to consult and share are mostly given out of generosity. I call it generosity space because, oh, I'm being generous. I invited you, please participate here. And then I'm very selective on what I take and what I don't take. So it's nonsense. It's a waste of money at these consultations and sharing. Unless and until we really become transparent and we really take it, it's not going to happen. And most of all the big documents, especially I work in the climate and forestry sector, most of the documents that are huge World Bank money and huge USAID money, all these donor money invested on it, and consultation is a huge bulk of it. And Nepal is a leading thing in having layers and layers of consultations. But if you really go and see, I have been to several ones, it is a space of generosity where we are just invited, and if they like you, or if they like, it's not they like you, if they have the lens to understand their issue, and if they have the right they can interpret it rightly, it can go inside the document and it can be learned. But again, I'm from a different, lens I have. I might not be able to see what this particular person is saying. That doesn't go inside because I interpret it from my own small lens. So here I'm trying to talk a little bit of diversity, but the main thing is these spaces, I call it generosity spaces, should be tackled, should be studied, should be questioned, should be re-examined, and not waste our money and energy on that.
Gauri sir, can I add on this? Thank you very much. Actually, Dibya ma'am, thank you very much for raising this concern. Actually, being a government official, it's sometimes difficult what, people from civil societies normally express. But I've been working in this area and I do, understand and comprehend the gravity of your concern. But at the same time, we shouldn't forget that you as a civil society person or maybe a freelancing expert, or we as a government do have different perspective. If I work in certain domain, that is my foremost and topmost priority, and I want to incorporate everything. But the compulsion of the government is to accommodate everything out of, hundreds and thousands of, stakeholders. So that perspective sometimes, overlook and may miss out certain important thing. But it doesn't mean that we don't value civil societies and NGOs and all this movement. If you see 15th plan, we have clearly mentioned that NGOs and civil societies are extended arm of the government. We want to work together. Whatever expertise civil societies do have, as a government, I don't have. I can't reach to the doorstep of the people, I don't have that experience. I can't economize my spending, whereas you people can do. So we really honor that. We really honor that. And another is, I worked a long time in the Ministry of, Women, Children and Senior Citizen, looking after NGOs issues also. Most of the NGOs, I shouldn't say all, many of them want to go to the comfort zone all the time.
Yes.
But we have as a government, we need to look into the whole country. If everybody goes to the comfort zone, then we'll go to the terrain area of hill, mountains. So that's why we set out certain rules and regulations and conditionalities. But we don't want to harm, the variation normally that has been generated by the civil society organization. We really acknowledge and really honor the contribution that has been going on by the civil society organizations. So, coming back to the one or two things I would like to say, and what the ma'am just mentioned, I would like to reiterate the essence of dissemination of the result of finding, which is very important. She was saying how to use it, how to interpret it, and how to, fill in the policy formulation process. That's a very important point. And I would like to note, we are not talking in vacuum everything here. We have a lot of achievement we have made so far. The Right to Information Act. If you are, if you are not given certain information you are seeking for, with the help of the provision of the Right to Information Act, you can sue any public agencies at the moment. You can ask for the information. But if certain officials may say that, okay, not today, maybe after a week, but ultimately who wants to give that information? Few months back, a journalist come to our office and ask for all the details of the film that was distributed to the official in the Planning Commission. We don't want to share information like that, but we are bound to now. There are certain, great achievement we have made so far, number one. Number two, we have a provision of a spokesperson. I was a spokesperson. How tough my life was in the planning commission. I can understand that. I need to be ready all the time. All of a sudden, journalists come into my room and says, "Okay, sir, what is your opinion on that?" And sometimes they come with the television, camera and make me, speak. It's virtually not possible, but we are bound to because we get a tax money as a salary. I'm bound to speak. I have to speak for the people. So these are wonderful, provision that also help for the effective evaluation also, and the provision also of the Susna Adhikari. So information officer are also there. Let's acknowledge this kind of achievement also and try to reinforce each of us, whatever we have been doing in this area. So thank you.
We
So we have been talking about evaluation contributes to improving governance. Very simple example. I go to the Department of Transport in Lagankhel, where I have applied for my license, and it takes about 3-4 days to get the coupon to get into the line, and after that I get the receipt, and it takes another 8 months to get the smart card license. Okay, that's what evaluation has found. Now, to improve that as a governance, it does not take me 3 days to get the coupon and not 8 months to get the license. I mean, I'm talking in terms of governance as service delivery. So how do you think we can handle this? I'm not saying government is not doing that, but it's a very complicated, difficult situation. Like you are saying, there's a whole lot of things to be accommodated. There are practical issues because we have to get the smart card license from some expertise somewhere else in Europe, like we have the problem with passport, e-passport. So evaluation has found that this is the problem with the service delivery in certain sector. I'm giving a very simple example. It's the same case with passport and so many other service sectors. So how does evaluation can improve governance of such simple thing as a service delivery? That's it.
So I think the word evaluation needs to be broken down, and there can be many small ways and small initiatives to evaluate and bring insights. So I think they need to be acknowledged. And the next thing I want to point out is that so is there actual enabling environment? Are there encouraging policies, resources for this kind of evaluation kind of initiatives? That's quite really important, I think. So so sometimes it's quite important that the government, particularly and the development partners, encourage this kind of initiatives, and whether there are resources and funding is really important. So next thing, in terms of policies, I want to bring to notice the recent Statistics Act by the government. So I think Dr. Rupakiti will clarify further. And apparently, I haven't been able to go through the act in detail, so I didn't find that online. But it looks like that government is really trying to discourage the particularly civil society organizations and the different stakeholders, non-state actors that spontaneously come up and generate evidence, data, and that want to spotlight the weaknesses and so apparently there seem to be a lot of good things in terms of streamlining and centralizing kind of generating data, but it's it looks restrictive, and it will discourage the different types of civil society organizations and researchers in collecting data. So you need to take approval of the National Statistical Office now onwards. So not everyone can just go and collect data and come up with any kind of conclusions or findings. So this will discourage. So this is really concerning, and there can be different. Citizens can also generate data, facts, evidence. We talk about evidence based advocacy and actions. So I expect Dr. Rupaketi to respond to this and how this will encourage or discourage small initiatives and citizen generated data and civil society organizations, so that their data, facts, and evidence are also counted, and they are facilitated and acknowledged. Thank you.
Talking about that governance issues, I think we have to. Yes, sorry. I'm Govinda Basnet, working as independent consultant for maybe over 10 years or like that. Working in the field of mostly in evaluation, project evaluations. I think we have to disentangle two things, governance. So we are talking about project governance during that cycle. Usually these evaluations evaluate only that part, governance of that project during that phase. And we are messing that up with general governance in the society or the way government functions. Of course, there are some implications of the project. For example, Rupaketi sir gave very good examples of those public hearings. Probably the government agencies, they have adopted that public hearings from those projects. That is very good learnings, but we have to separate that things. And this discussion would have been much more practical if we have taken some specific examples of some projects. For example, PACT was evaluated, and there was in media, there was report that there were some wrongdoings. But I don't think the World Bank would again look into that, how that would, again, they would change in their policy or formulations of new projects. That means those evaluations did not contribute in governance, right? So we have to disentangle these different issues and then talk more on ground level of those specific projects than broadly or talking about a policy or theoretical issues. That would make much more specific outcomes. Thank you.
Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Geeta Bhattrai Bastakoti. I am a freelancer. I work as a JC expertise in different areas. So my question is like, basically what I want to highlight is like, we talked about governance, right? So in context of Nepal, right? So we are talking from the perspective of Nepal in the new federal structure, like if we go into the evaluation process, so how can we take into the evaluation steps to increase, like we have gone into the new federal structure. So there are many challenges we have already like found upon, like upon the upcoming of the federal structure. So in that sense, like in this platform, we talked about, like in terms of project, like if we talk about projects, it is a micro level, okay? So in terms of macro level, so how can we as a Nepalese have a evaluation perspective to enhance? We talk about like equity, transformation from an economic development perspective. Also, we have to look onto this lens. So this has been seen in this platform, I think so. So I want to put these questions out to the plenary expertise to say some few words on this. Thank you.
Namaste, everybody. This is Man Bahadur Lama. Basically, I associate with one of the international organization, WaterAid, looking after the MNE since 7 years. Before also, I worked in different organization. It means I am from demand side. I think I saw many of questions from support side, popularly known as supply side. So I engage in designing evaluation. So I have one question regarding that. It may be related to governance or not, but it's purely related to evaluation. Can a person or organization do the evaluation who did the baseline or not? That's, I think, they can do, but is it good governance or not? It's not about capacity, it's about governance. So this is my question to our respected, basically, I would expect the answer from Dr. Ganapati sir. And my second question is, not question, but suggestion kind of thing. Evaluation for good governance. Evaluation is considered as part of program audit. So financial audit is conducted as part of good governance, which has to be conducted or carried out by certified auditor. So why don't we have policy or just kind of consensus? Because I remember COE has supported us for developing, I remember, some rules, regulation for evaluation. So I think such kind of culture we should develop. That's my suggestion. Thanks.
Thank you. First of all, my name is Samuel Chetri. I represent Oxfam, Denmark, and also represent Nepal Participatory Action Network as chairperson. I think the theme of the discussion is very, very interesting, fostering, governance, accountability, credibility, transparency. Actually, I agree the blueprint put forward by panel members. What I think that we have been putting a lot of amount of resource in the evaluation, monitoring evaluation process and the documentation. But actually the findings, I fully agree with Ms. Deva Gurung that the findings of the research or any documentation process or evaluation actually sink without its full, realizing full potential of application or utilization. So this is one of the major issue. Unless we really realize the major part of major objective of the evaluation is in learning. Learning is missing the whole process, whole cycle of the evaluation, and this learning part because we have to move forward from the traditional concept of the learning towards the learning culture. So I think this is where really I think we need to focus. If the learner wants to ensure governance or accountability and inform you further policy, whatever, the system approach, particularly now we talk about theory options and kind of things, but when we really miss this approach in the whole cycle, the slower component would be also. This is one. And secondly, since Dr. Rupert Kitty, he representing government, and one of the, I worked with him very closely, and he's one involvement in high capacity in government officials. I think why don't you think of all the product of evaluation exercise rather as a reservoir and synthesize analysis and then incorporate the final output into the policy change process so that the correct adjustments in that some of the things that may not first to the approach which is very also so that will ensure the accountability, credibility, and transparency. So that's my observation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Actually, all of those, concern, I should say concern, it's not a question. We are having a discussion over here to improve ourselves. We just want to assess that. And we just want to propose as well that there are certain problems. So we need to overcome them in future so that we can achieve desired result. And sir, actually, thank you, WhatsApp, sir, for pointing out this. And being a government officer, I'm victim myself, sir. Sometimes this happens, and this is happening. But at the same time, across the road, see some Karale over there. There used to be a lot of people, crowded people. Nobody is there at the moment. It's a miracle of the technology, ICT. So you have online ticketing system now. You can book, and then you can go to the office at the designated time, and you can get things done. So we are gradually moving. I won't be saying that our pace is ideal. We have to expedite and we have to improve a lot, but things are moving towards positive directions. Yes, there is some concern about NID registration and getting a passport, which is really a difficult job these days. And also, getting a driving license. Actually, you get a license in a temporary form, but to get it printed, you are waiting for months. Actually, government has been seriously thinking about it. I think that we will be in a position to, sort them out in due course of time. But I do agree with you, sir. These are the concerns, really. We have a report, and there are some findings. People are getting, trouble out of it. And but we have not been able to move faster as was expected. So this is the area, really. Thank you, sir, for pointing out this. This is one of the areas we have to improve. Yes, I am sorry, sir. I can't give response of this, concern actually with authentic answer, because I myself still have not been able to look at the, approved act. Not only that, even the Central Bureau of Statistics used to be there under the National Planning Commission. We came to the information that now it has, moved to the Office of the Prime Minister and Council of Ministers. After we get it, I would welcome you for a cup of tea in my office after 1 month or 15 days. Let's sit together and then let's discuss on this. But I do agree one point, sir. When you talk about the data should be standardized. It should be qualitative. And in terms of the methodology and procedure, it should adopt, in terms of the collection, international norms and practice. Because it's not only Central Bureau of Statistics that, dictate the collection and dissemination, interpretation, and use of the data. It's a international organization is there under the UN. So we have to follow that. We have a lot of discrepancy at the moment in terms of the data generation and the quality of the data and use of the data. Perhaps it can be an effort from the government to standardize and to make it some sort of standardized. Maybe Madhusudan sir, later on, after I finish this, we'll, supplement on this. Sir, perhaps, yeah, I do agree with what you said. I want to salute you with your idea. Actually, we have to go to the ground realities. At times, it also happens, you commission evaluation study team. There is a report, normally you don't disseminate. Sometimes, not making a decision is also a decision. Perhaps there are certain sensitive things. There are certain issues for the sake of the national interest which cannot be brought out under the public domain. Sometimes that happens, but we do agree that we are a part of international convention in which we ratify regarding all this, regarding human rights and all these things. And more than that, we have already enacted the Right to Information Act. So if a authority person at the office in the concerned agency and asks for the data, they're bound to give it. If they don't give you, then and shoot them, There are freedom and legal provision there. But thank you, ma'am, for the yes. Yes, it's a fundamental question, actually. We would like to work with committee of evaluators as well in this area. We have moved from unitary state of government to federal government. We have a challenge now because we have a 761 spending unit. It's a really challenging job. 761 government in place. So it's a really challenging job, and we need to further work out and redouble our efforts to have better coordination and cooperation with all these agencies. And we're also trying to revise, Dhaniram sir is here, he is hearing in any division in the Planning Commission. Perhaps he's also talking later on about this, revising present, guideline of MNE. Perhaps some national, essence should be reflected well there. And we need to now encourage all the provincial level government and local level government to have their own MNE guideline in line with the national MNE guidelines. So we'll be having, advocating on that, and we'll also, making aware the elected representative at the local level. मानव सरले पनि केही कुराहरू भन्नुभएको छ तर म प्रति छैन मेरी गणपति सरले भन्नु होला गणपति सर सरले भन्नुभएको छ थ्याङ्क यू सर actually I had a very precious preparation before with Anas sir saying that I thought that I didn't also implement whatever he recommended in his report. Sometimes you get a report and you get a recommendation, but there are no prerogative sometimes. There are many political factors, social factor, cultural factor, institutional factor, which are mingled with each other, which you alone or your organization alone cannot deal with. So there are certain situations on that. So, but definitely I do argue that Planning Commission can play a big role to create a depository of all the evaluation work that has been done within the country. Perhaps this is one of the areas, Dhaniram sir is also here, we can think of, and we'll talk about it in senior management team meeting also. So with this, I think thank you very much. I will take all of those questions. Actually, we are having an evaluation of 15th plan, and we are heading to a 16th plan. And at the same time, I'm also one of the members and coordinating the drafting of multi-sector nutrition plan. Whatever comments we have brought over here, they are very precious. And at this time, we are also preparing, a tool to monitor and evaluate the performance of the multi-sector nutrition plan also. From that perspective, all the suggestions are very valid, and I really value them. Thank you.
I think you raised the question of that statistical act. Some sort of the provision there. It was discussed. I was involved in the earlier preparatory phase of that, something with the STG project earlier. So that is actually, what you mentioned is there, but it was more, this provision was there in previous 2018 or 13 Act also, but it was not implemented. That's what, we were told that time. And then there's more standardization because the issue came, different small sample, this thing, and coming at a bigger picture. At least, the CBS has a different provision office. There is a district office. So something doing a large sample. Somebody wants to do 1,000 or 1,500 household survey. At least maintain some standardized process, consult and get some, the methodology, how to sample those things, because they are the one expert. Actually, compared to other sectors, CBS has a good expertise in Nepal compared to other statisticians. Use them, get there at least for the methodological part. That the intention, I think that one. At least they want to discuss that with the implementing agency. Maybe later on they will come with the procedure. What is the survey? What is the limit? If somebody want to small survey, students like a master, they don't need to submit. But being a large survey, somebody want to do 5,000 household survey, and then that's huge resources also, and it has become with the finding. It should not be intended to, particularly beneficial to certain aim and objective, but should come as a useful to the nation for that. So for that purpose, statistical technical support getting from the existing, manpower there. That's the main objective. That's what discussed that time. And maybe how ultimately change there. I don't know about the draft I have seen, and during the draft discussion, this issue was, addressed that way. There's an interesting part from the developing partner side, Manbadurji, and then you mentioned. I think I one point say those who have done midterm or even baseline, they should not involve directly doing the final evaluation, because there's a same biasness will be there. It's the same thing like a standard procedure. If somebody prepare a QR, the same agency or consultant, is widely following World Bank, they should not do the assignment. So same thing apply here. Yeah, lastly, yeah, this is so this is the part of the governance of the project governance. What I was reasoning that we are mixing all governance issues. That's why I said there is no clear relation. First statement was because it's a project governance, a program governance, or a country level governance. Okay, so I think it's better if the earlier we would have disangled. What Govinda also mentioned earlier, that it needs to be disangled and discussed separately. That you're right. That I think. My one point I want to add, I will not want to take more point there. I think in case of Nepal, I work outside of Nepal, also other countries here in India also largely and other. I will say here, a lot of development partners involved, and each one has different agency. And if you want to standardize or develop the evaluation system in Nepal, I think it's more code of conduct required for the implement agency. And I have been advocating of that. COA has prepared code of conduct for evaluator, but somehow we have not been able to work on making standardized guideline. And I think NPC, sir, is there now. Rockefeller, sir, it's a good role to at least measure the development donor, like a meta organization like the UNDP, World Bank, Nepal, or NPC should work, or AIN, the Association of International ISO. There is a role to develop what is a minimum code of conduct or minimum standard to do evaluation, because that involves resource allocation, both resources, the time, and the financial. I'm not separate. So these are a consultant or somebody, evaluator cannot decide because they have no control on that. So who has control? The implementation agencies, like what we mentioned here. So that part needs to be. I think in Nepal there's a mismatch. I can see we have found is unlike other countries, we have more mismatch in Nepal than the other places I worked in that. So in that way, there's a great role of NPC and also AIN and the coordination of the UNDP, somebody where the RCO, they do this type of, there's a provision, what type of project, how to evaluate at what time, and what is the minimum resources required for that. Usually I have seen in $20 million, dollar evaluation project with the 5 lakh, 6 lakh, and that means there's nothing, nobody want to evaluate that actually. So this and similarly personal or mandate requirement that. So the quality is a function of the resources as time. So this is fundamental in management rule. So we cannot neglect that. So I think requirement is there. It's time that we discuss these issues. Thank you.
I think the answer is the same that Dr. Bhattarai gave, that those who have conducted the baseline, whether the same team can conduct the evaluation or not. It's not clear-cut answer over here. Of course, if that the organization who is commissioning the evaluation has some kind of standard that those who have conducted the baseline, they cannot do the evaluation. If that kind of standards are there within the commissioning agencies, that's very clear. Otherwise, it depends on the ethic of the evaluators. The evaluator should also express this, that, okay, I did the baseline, that's why I don't know whether your organization is happy with me to do the evaluation because I did the baseline. Okay, so that kind of the communication should be there. But if you say ethically, I am in favor that it should not be conducted. Yep. That's one thing. And another thing, because in the use of evaluation, I'll say a little bit. It is because we conducted research, but it was a little bit earlier, in the use of evaluation in Nepal, Bangladesh, and Bhutan. Okay. And what we found is that the evaluation use is there, but it is minimal. Okay. And it is minimally used in the government sector, than in civil society organization, than in donor, than in UN system. So we look the 4 system, the UN system, the civil society system, donor system, and government system. And government is always lower in using the evaluation findings, where it should be, opposite. that the government should be the one to use evaluation in a higher rate. That is not there. Yeah. Please, yeah. Because we have very limited time now, and we should be very. Let us
just one line of clarification to Kiran sir. When I meant in my deliberation before, I was not only pinpointing the government institutions. I was trying to see critically how even the civil society also gives these platforms and how the discussion happens. So it's not only targeted towards the government, but I was talking about institutions who does these programs on the whole. So, sir, it's not, civil society is even more responsible for that, I would say, because they are the legs of the, and hands of the government to support them. So I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Now, I would like to ask the question to the audience that if you have some example, if you have some experience where evaluation has enhanced the governance, that we would like to know.
So it all depends on you are being commissioned to do an independent evaluation. You submit the report and you don't know what happens after you submit the report, whether there will be a response or not. I mean, the INGOs keep it to themselves. Government also, I think they keep it to themselves, whether it's a civil society or I don't know who can give an example unless and until you really follow it. So that's, I think, something else, which is a good question, but a difficult question to answer by a consultant.
Yeah, maybe for others it might be easy. Yeah, for some it might be easy.
In the case of reform review, who was respected for this to change the ways of time the report.
Yes.
But in the case of final evaluation, I have not seen any cases where this here.
Good.
Okay.
Yeah, good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, just to share my experience, I do not actually experience at the macro level, at the international level, let's say. I work with the Oxfam Denmark for Education Out Loud program, which has been implemented in over 60 countries, and I represent Asia Pacific.
Okay.
So we had actually conducted evaluation last year, midterm evaluation across the region in I think 25 countries.
Okay.
And then based on the findings of the evaluation, we had to go through the adaptive management process, because the program is actually supported by the Global Partnership for Education. So that actually supports government. So we have transnational, alliance as well. So what we did actually, we had to feed in the findings of the evaluation into the whole cycle of the process, the development process. So what happened that based on the findings, the information was fed into and then adapted the program. Let's say, talking about, very technical things, the theory of change, logical framework, M&E framework. That's how I think we contributed to some extent on governance, credibility and transparency.
Maybe, maybe at the micro level, project level, or maybe at the macro level, program level, wherever you have the experience that the evaluation has enhanced the governance. If anybody has some experience or knowledge. Yeah.
Mike.
I'm Tara Gurung, and working independently at the moment. Well, I was working with organizations in the past. I mean, I did manage a number of evaluations, sometime end of program evaluation, which then later would have fed into the development of a new program. and sometime midterm evaluation that would have changed the course of the current program, So organizations, there are organizations who seriously look into it. And but what I would like to share is that the change process is very, very difficult, because whenever you are developing a program and, it's not just you working on it. There are a number of stakeholders involved, and each stakeholder has their own interest in mind, and it sometimes boils down to individuals working in that particular program. So the change is not easy. And I guess the best outcome at the end is more of a win-win situation where you compromise a bit in the process and then come to an outcome whereby you are more confident that probably this much of change will lead into a better result. So I hope I'm not sounding too philosophical or too ideal or too theoretical, but in practice that's how it works. And I just wanted to say that all evaluations don't go waste. There are organizations who seriously look into it and work on it. Thank you.
Honorable Moderator, there are some instances, but I don't have experience of the micro level. At the macro level, there are many instances within the Planning Commission. Let me cite one or two. The government of Nepal has given mandate to allocate special grant and supplementary grant to the planning commissions. So recently we commissioned a study. We got important feedback. On the basis of that, we amend the guideline or working procedures. Normally we do that. I mentioned before, we carried out midterm evaluation of multi-sector nutrition plan, and we have got very important feedback. For example, so one size fits approach may not work while you target to address malnutrition problems. So immediately we went to Japan targeted malnutrition nutrition program. So this is how we try to adapt, and I'm sure that. So I mentioned before, we have different institutions like INDAC, MDAC. So whenever they take a decision, they try to follow that. But I may not be aware. He has just mentioned as a researcher that perhaps government has not been able to use the outcome of the evaluation in the further planning process. That part needs to improve. Yes, less use, right. And there are other instances as well. For example, the evaluation report of administrative reform commissions, right? So if you see the number of ministries cut down, and if you see in the constitutions, number of ministers, even number of ministers have been, strictly, numbered now. And the date for the deliberation of the budget is mentioned in the constitution. See, we are trying to move magical. We cannot overrule those provisions in the constitution also. So things are moving slowly. Let me go to I'm not sure whether I will get another chance because it's 2:08. So let me cite one or two points which have been mentioned in the 15th plan. As a custodian of the 15th plan, it's our mandate, to knock all the line agencies to do something in this regard. I think this is very much related to the evaluation efforts also. Building virtuous society with zero tolerance against corruption. Making public service accountable and transparent. So these are the points. The performance of political leader and administrative personnel measurable. So we want to work in these areas as well. I mean, courageously right this point also, that political leaders should also come into the domain of the evaluation, right? Legal, institutional, and systematic behavioral reform is very much required. These are the strategies we mentioned. We're linking public personnel towards result and accountability. So see, some sort of seriousness is there. Perhaps we need to scale up our efforts in terms of the implementation, and we need support. You all are our extended arm, including Committee of Evaluator. Honorable Ganapati sir used to be in the government. He knows everything about the government, and he's outside the government. So I think he can be an asset for us in this regard. So thank you very much. I think I will not get chance again. That's why I spoke this. Thank you.
I will not summarize things, that something come in the discussion earlier. I think, yeah, Dr. Gita mentioned that the federalism, one of the missing point now in the discussion also, it did not come. The role of the provincial policy planning commission is very important, and how the NPC is going to capacitate that, because NPC cannot go to 753 municipality and do that. That's missing. We don't hear this in public domain discussion, these things, how to standardize. I know each of the government is separate now. Because of that, there's a coordination problem, but this coordination problem needs to, I think, harmonize and some sort of, role, at least the municipal level activity. Each municipality capacity enhancement at one time is a very huge task. At least provincial level coordinated, the monitoring, evaluation things done. There's much more evaluation culture will be deeply institutionalized in the country, besides the NPC. There's one point. Second point is, I think in this whole of the governance issue, supporting role of the politician, the press and the media are very important. These issues, by just taking technical report, these things, unless they are communicated and pressure group, these media politicians are involved in the process, ultimately designing new policy program, or their say will be more. So I think the whole in this process, governance, their role is very important. And then, so as we say, the context, the dilemma faced by many, but no one size prescription fits for all the cases. That's why I will conclude it.
Concluding remarks.
I think I don't have much. I think much has been said. But all I want to say is, I think Nepal, whether from the government side or from the civil society or the private sectors, I think we have very good, compared to other countries in Southeast and South Asia, we have very good policies, strategies, and discussions. We do discuss about it, about evaluation, how to make, strengthen governance and all. But I think all the discussions we did today and we've been discussing is about how to make these, translate these mechanisms into our, day-to-day implementation. So I think the focus should be, I think we don't have dearth of all these strategies and policies and mechanisms. Even like we had mechanisms now, of course, the federal system has come, but we have the citizen forum. Till there is accountable, bodies and mechanisms there. But we have to now, the second generation issue is how to enrich them, how to capacitate them to see from different lens and implement this. Because the whole thing we talked about, all the issues were related to the process, to the mindset of the people, individual capacities. So investment has to be there now, I think, and not only in the papers. That's why I think we are not being able to see the outcomes and the results that we anticipate, So I think the focus should be there. Thank you.
Thank you, all panelists and participants. What I understood from this panel is that in Nepal, maybe in other countries as well, there are certain rules, regulations, guidelines, frameworks to support the evaluation, but their implementation is a challenge. That's one of the points that came from this discussion. And another thing is that we are still in the nascent stage as far as contributing evaluation to enhancing the governance is concerned. We are still in the very basic stage, and we need to do more. I think this is the conclusion of this panel. With this, I thank you all very much for patiently, listening the conversation over here. Thank you so much.